We don't have any major news for the Carolina Hurricanes, but maybe some setting up for some major news. I'm Tim Donnelly. Graham Hill producing the show today, sitting in for Dennis, and I hope, and you ready? I hope for the Canes culture. I hope for the very thing everyone is worried about ruining. I hope for the Canes culture. The Canes are getting ready to make a big move before the trade deadline tomorrow, 2 minutes ago. We are less than 24 hours until the trade deadline, and I am hoping beyond all hope that the Canes do something. The Canes owe it to the players in their locker room to do something. There's so much worry about messing up the Canes culture by making a trade at the deadline. Well, I have the opposite question. What about messing up the Canes culture by not making a trade at the deadline? I'll use this tweet from yesterday, but I think it sums up a lot of what I've heard from Canes fans out there. This one comes from Dylan, a listener. No trades. Keep the guys. Feed off of the fact that we don't need to make personnel changes to win. The culture is what it is because of this group. The more and more I read that and that sentiment, and Dylan's not the only one, I've heard it from a million different places, a million different sources, the more I disagree. Canes culture, yes, it is about the people in that locker room. Yes, it is about the system that Rod Brind'amour asked them to play, but it's about doing everything you can to win games. What about the players on the roster? In a lot of ways, and I say this lovingly, playing for the Canes stinks, right? The system is brutal. You're playing man-to-man on defense the entire time. You are gunning your reserves to empty every single shift. I equate it to like running the 4x400 meter in track.
Or no huddle offense for football.
Or no huddle offense 100% of the time. It stinks, but it's glorious, right? By the end of the game, by the end of the run, by the end of the relay, you'll be gassed beyond all gassed, but you'll feel glorious because you laid it all out there to help your team win. They ask their defensemen to sell out. They ask their forwards to prioritize defense. That which, by the way, comes with less statistics, right? Comes with less goals scored. Comes with when it's your turn to hit free agency, you don't have all of the gaudy point totals because you sacrificed that to make the Canes win as much as you can. It's like a wide receiver in a running offense. You're out there blocking your tail off. It's the same amount of effort. You just don't get the catches, the yards, or the touchdowns. You sacrifice that because the coaches tell you running the ball is the best way to win. So if the players are asked to sacrifice to win, how do you look them in the face and continue to ask them to do that when you say, oh, we like our guys. We didn't absolutely sell out to win at the trade deadline. We didn't absolutely make all the moves. We didn't go get Gensel. We didn't go get whoever your apple of your eye is. Ryan Whitney, longtime NHL player, now the one of the hosts of the very popular Spittin' Chicklets podcast, tweeted this out yesterday. Carolina Hurricane fans have every reason to explode with anger and disgust if they don't do anything at the deadline. The team could win it all. They are a piece or two away. Their owner only wants guys with term. Grab a rental and try to win the Stanley Cup. That's from Ryan Whitney. I would change one thing. I agree with all of that, by the way, but I would change one thing in what I'm telling you. Replace fans with players. Carolina Hurricanes players have every reason to explode with anger and disgust if they don't do anything at the deadline. Yes, they have friends. They have guys they like, okay? You may not want to have a big trade because that means one of your buddies might leave, but I guarantee you no one went into professional hockey with, my goal is to make a new best friend. They went into professional hockey with, my goal is to win a Stanley Cup, and I already sacrifice a ton. I put in the effort. I put in the work. I empty my gas tank every night to win a Stanley Cup. If you tell me that your job as a GM, your job as a front office executive is to go and make this roster as good as possible, if you do that, I'll see my buddy in the offseason. Right? If I got a good friend that has to get traded away, we'll go vacation, after the Stanley Cup Finals. I'll invite him to my party that I throw with my day with the cup. You make the move. You make the move. And all of I have to be honest, Canes fans, a lot of you seem brainwashed. Brainwashed by this, we only make trades when we absolutely win the trade by $1 billion, and we only make trades when the guy's signed to a long-term deal and he's going to be around here, and you think that's the proper way to go about it, and not always the case. Sometimes the case, not always the case. It's okay to want something now. It's okay to realize you have a solid roster. It's okay to realize you have a solid minor league system, and it's okay to realize you have a bunch of draft picks, and you can want them now. You can use them now. You can cash in those chips now.
To me, I feel like a lot of this comes from both as a fan and as a front office perspective. A lot of the guys on the roster currently were a part of that 2019 rebuild that got them back to the Stanley Cup playoffs. So maybe there's a mindset of we owe it to these guys like a Brett Pesce, like a Martin H's, to get these guys to a Stanley Cup appearance with this current roster.
Do you know how I counter that? Nomar Garciaparra.
No, I mean I totally agree.
Here's how I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm disagreeing with the sentiment. Nomar Garciaparra. I've been. Do you remember Nomar? You might be too young for Nomar.
Kind of.
Shortstop for the Red Sox. I go way back with Nomar. When I was living in Jersey, he was in the minor leagues playing for the Trenton Thunder. So and as I was probably 4 or 5 years old, right? When you're 4 or 5 years old, is there anything cooler than that guy's name is Nomar Garciaparra? Like that was my guy. For no reason other than his name was fun to say. Then he goes on to the Red Sox and he's part of that build, right? He's a part of that build. The curse of the Bambino. He's going through it all. He's the guy that's dueling Derek Jeter every year. He's the Red Sox guy. Guess when they traded Nomar Garciaparra? Halfway through 2004. Guess what they did in 2004? They broke the curse of the Bambino, and the Red Sox won the World Series. And guess what they did? They shipped him a ring and said, you were here for the first part of it, here's your ring. But they had to move on from their guy, their addition, right? It was Alex Rodriguez, it was Derek Jeter, and it was Nomar at shortstop. In the majors, it was their guy, and they loved him. And, I mean, his name, Nomar Garciaparra, say that with a Boston accent when you drop your R's. It sounds cooler. That he was their guy, and they moved on from him because they had to go win a World Series. And they were desperate to win a World Series because they were the Red Sox and they hadn't won it since Babe Ruth. The Canes need to be that desperate to win a World Series to where you might have someone you love. You might have someone that was part of the build. You might have someone with a lot of jerseys in the stands. You might have to say, we'll ship you the ring once we go finish the job.
Or we'll invite you to the parade.
We'll invite you to the parade, and the player you bring back, you can take credit for that. And by the way, we're going to be talking a lot about Gensel today because from Pittsburgh, because he's kind of floated in all these rumors as a main Carolina target. Pittsburgh reportedly doesn't want players. They want prospects. You might not have to give up any of the guys that you love and have been here since the rebuild started. You might be able to keep all of those guys and still bring in Gensel. One of them's got to go to the bench, but hey, you can win a cup on the bench. You owe it to the players on the roster that will still be on the roster to empty your gas tank with moves to get better, the same way you ask them to empty their gas tank every single day with the system that you play. You owe it to them just like you owe it to everybody else on that facility. The trainers, right? By the way, athletic trainers, horrendous hours. Athletes are getting there before practices, and sometimes 5 o'clock in the morning, you got to be there to tape ankles, ice, do rehab. Trainers are pouring their soul into it, and you're going like, well, we want to see about maybe the next 4 years. No, go all in.